She would pour the restaurant food into a pot, pretending she had cooked it herself, then arrange it beautifully on a fancy tray and place it carefully on the kitchen table. Her mother, Paulina, watched all of this with growing concern. She had hoped that the disaster would be a wake-up call for Happy, but it seemed like her daughter was still determined to avoid the real challenges of life. One day, as Happy was sitting in front of the mirror, styling her hair, Paulina came into the room and sighed deeply. "Happy," she said, her voice calm but filled with concern. "This attitude you have will cause you trouble in your marriage one day. You can't keep relying only on your beauty. No one will respect you if you don't learn to take care of yourself in other ways. A good man wants more than just a pretty face. He wants a partner who can cook, manage a household, and take responsibility." But Happy, not wanting to hear any more, just waved her hand dismissively and brushed her mother's words aside. "Mummy, I'm fine. I'll figure it out. There's no need to worry about me." Paulina, frustrated but still caring deeply for her daughter, tried once more. "Listen to me, Happy. I've been telling you this for years. You can't keep ignoring the things that matter. One day, you'll be faced with a situation where your beauty won't get you by, and you'll regret not learning." But Happy didn't listen. She just rolled her eyes and continued to style her hair, her mind focused on the present moment and the attention she received from her appearance. She had no intention of changing. In her mind, beauty was her ticket to everything she wanted, and she didn't need to concern herself with the rest. Days turned into weeks, and Happy continued to ignore the truth that was right in front of her. She was beautiful, yes, but that alone wasn't enough to shape a future. Her mother's warning hung in the air, but Happy refused to acknowledge it, too focused on her own desires and comfort. Anthony first laid eyes on Happy when she was at a restaurant, buying food. He couldn't help but be captivated by her beauty. Her radiant smile and confident aura immediately drew him in. He approached her with a warm smile and said, "Hello, Angel." Happy, slightly surprised but intrigued, smiled back and responded, "Hello. What's your name?" Anthony asked, his curiosity piqued. "My name is Happy," she replied, still smiling. "Can I have your number?" Anthony asked, feeling a connection to her. Without much hesitation, Happy agreed, and they exchanged numbers. Before leaving, Anthony paid for the food that Happy had ordered, a gesture that she appreciated. As time went on, they started seeing each other more often, their friendship blossoming into something deeper. Eventually, they got married, and Happy became Anthony's wife. At first, everything seemed perfect. Happy enjoyed the new role of being a wife, but there was one problem. She still couldn't cook. Every day, she found herself going to a restaurant, buying large portions of food, and bringing it home. She would pour the restaurant food into a pot, pretending she had cooked it herself, then arrange it beautifully on a fancy tray and place it carefully on the kitchen table. When Anthony came home from work, Happy would serve him the food with a smile, and he, not knowing what she'd done, would praise her for her cooking skills. "You really know how to cook, Happy," Anthony would say, his voice full of admiration, as he enjoyed the food she served him. But inside, Happy was filled with fear. She lived in constant anxiety, knowing that her husband would one day want something else from what she could offer. She couldn't cook meals, and how would she provide it when she doesn't know how to cook? All she could do was rely on restaurant food to get by. Each time she had to cook, she would rush to the restaurant, buy the food, and repeat her deception. The thought of her husband asking for something she couldn't provide, something that wasn't already prepared, haunted her. The facade continued, but it was taking a toll on her. She no longer felt at peace in her own home. Her mind was always racing with the fear that Anthony might start to notice something was wrong. The pressure was unbearable and she couldn't escape it. Happy was trapped in a cycle of deception, pretending to be the perfect wife while hiding the truth about her lack of cooking skills. She feared that one day, the truth would be discovered and her marriage might not survive it. One day, Happy sat down with Anthony, feeling frustrated with the constant demands of housework. "Anthony," she said, "I really think we need to get a housemaid to help with all the chores around here. It's too much for me to handle on my own." Anthony, however, had a different idea. "I've been thinking," he began. "Instead of hiring a maid, what if we bring my niece Bridget to stay with us for a while? She's hard-working, and she's been helping her mother with housework since she was young. And she might still support you in the kitchen, because she can cook as well. It might be a better solution," Anthony added. Happy was excited to hear Anthony's suggestion about bringing his niece, Bridget, to stay with him. She had expected him to agree to her request for a maid, but the idea of Bridget coming over seemed like the perfect solution. Not only would she help with the house chores, but Bridget's cooking skills would cover for Happy's own weakness in the kitchen. Happy's mind raced with relief, knowing that Bridget's presence would take some pressure off her, especially when it came to preparing meals. She eagerly agreed, feeling that this was exactly what she needed. Bridget, Anthony's niece, was a very different kind of person compared to Happy. She had been taught how to cook by her mother, Madame Sarah, from a young age. Since she was 13 years old, Bridget had spent time in the kitchen with her mother, learning the ins and outs of cooking. Over the years, she became quite skilled, preparing dishes like bunga soup, egusi soup, white melon pepper soup, ogbono soup, fried rice, and jollof rice. One of Bridget's specialties was bunga soup. When she cooked it, she would begin by putting the bunga fruits on the fire, allowing them to cook thoroughly. After cooking, she would filter the bunga flavor with a cooking filter, and then pound it in a mortar with a pestle. Once that was done, she would filter the bunga flavor from the chaff, pour it into the pot, and let it boil. Bridget knew the right spices and ingredients to add, like pepper, salt, Maggi, and sliced onions, to make her bunga soup taste delicious. Depending on the type of fish, she would add bitter leaf for fresh fish or okra for smoked fish. Her bunga soup was a hit with the neighbors, who often complimented her cooking. Her mother, Madame Sarah, would proudly say, "Your food tastes better than mine, Bridget." Bridget would smile and laugh, replying, "Mummy, you taught me everything I know." And Madame Sarah would always add, "You're my star, Bridget. All that delicious food you make, you learned it from me." Bridget also excelled in cooking ogbono soup, following the same careful steps. When her parents tasted her soup, they would say, "I'm proud of you, Bridget." And sometimes Madame Sarah would tell her, "This is perfect. You've truly outdone yourself." As Bridget became more skilled, her mother began to trust her with all the cooking. Bridget was no longer just helping. She was taking over the kitchen, and Madame Sarah could rest easy knowing that her daughter would deliver a delicious meal every time. Now, with Bridget coming to stay with Happy and Anthony, Happy knew that things would be different. Bridget's arrival meant that she no longer had to worry about the housework or cooking. Bridget's expertise in the kitchen would surely be a relief, but Happy couldn't help feeling a little insecure. Bridget was everything she wasn't, a skilled cook and a hard-working young woman. Yet, Happy had no choice but to accept Anthony's decision and welcome his niece into their home. Anthony called his elder sister, hoping to convince her to let Bridget stay with him and Happy. He explained that having Bridget around would be a great help with the house chores. "You know how tiring it can be after a long day," he said. "Happy does her best, but having Bridget assist in doing some of the house chores will make things much easier." "I don't know Anthony," she said, her voice filled with concern. "Bridget is so helpful around here. She's always in the kitchen, making the meals. If she leaves, who will cook like she does? I'll miss her delicious food, and everything will feel off without her." Anthony, understanding his sister's attachment to Bridget, pleaded with her. I know, but Happy really needs help. Bridget's skills in the kitchen would be a great support for both of us. She can still come home to visit whenever you want, but this would really help Happy feel more at ease." Despite Anthony's best efforts, his sister remained firm in her decision. "I can't just let her go, Anthony. She's been such a big part of this house. Who will take care of everything the way she does?" she insisted. Anthony sighed, understanding his sister's point, but he knew it was important for Bridget to have the opportunity to help Happy too. The conversation was left hanging, with Anthony still hopeful that his sister might change her mind. But for now, he knew that convincing her would take more time. One evening, after dinner, Happy reminded her husband, Anthony, about his promise to bring his niece, Bridget, to stay with them. "Honey, don't forget about your niece, Bridget," she said, hopeful that the arrangement would come through soon. You said you were going to speak with your sister about it. Oh, that's right, Anthony replied with a smile, not wanting to disappoint her. Let me call my sister and remind her again. However, he didn't mention that his sister had already refused. He didn't want to upset Happy by revealing that there had been a disagreement. Later that day, Anthony called Bridget's mother, Sarah. As the phone rang, Sarah's husband, Bridget's father, looked at her and said, "Honey, you have a call." Sarah glanced at her phone, and her face immediately changed when she saw the caller ID. "It's Anthony," she said, frowning. Her husband noticed her reaction. "What's wrong? Why does this call make your face change?" he asked, sensing her unease. Sarah sighed. "It's Anthony. He's pleading again for Bridget to go live with him in Lagos. If she leaves, I don't know who will cook the way she does," she explained. Her tone was filled with reluctance. "But you know what? You've always said what's best for Bridget, so maybe it's time we let her go." Bridget's father, seeing how torn Sarah was, gently reassured her. "Let her go, love. We shouldn't hold her back because of her cooking. We both know she's more than capable of handling herself. And besides, this could be a great opportunity for her." Sarah was not pleased with the idea, but ultimately, she knew her husband's decision was final. She took a deep breath and picked up the phone. "Hello, Anthony," Sarah said, her voice still a little reluctant. "Hi, sister," Anthony replied, his voice full of optimism. "I just wanted to check in and see if you had made a decision about Bridget coming to stay with us." After a brief pause, Sarah replied, "All right, Anthony, I've talked it over with Bridget's father, and we decided that it's okay for her to go. I'll let her go to Lagos to help you and Happy." Anthony was overjoyed when he heard Sarah's decision. "Thank you so much, sister. You won't regret this. I'll make sure Bridget feels right at home here." He couldn't wait to share the good news with Happy. That evening, when Anthony told Happy, she was thrilled. "Oh my gosh, that's amazing," she exclaimed, her face lighting up with excitement. "Bridget's coming to stay with us. This is such a relief. Thank you, Anthony." She could already imagine the change it would bring. Bridget's cooking skills would finally take the pressure off her, and life at home would be so much easier. It seemed like a fresh start was on the horizon, and Happy couldn't wait for Bridget to arrive and begin her new role in their home. The next day, Anthony went to his sister's house to bring Bridget to their home. As soon as Bridget arrived at Anthony's house, Happy greeted her with a warm smile and treated her with kindness. "Welcome, Bridget," Happy said, giving her a hug. "We're so glad to have you here. I'm sure you'll fit right in." Bridget smiled and felt at ease, appreciating the warm welcome from her aunt. She was excited about the opportunity to live with Anthony and Happy, and she was eager to help out in whatever way she could. However, as the days passed, things started to change. Happy, who had once been so involved in the housework, began to shift her responsibilities onto Bridget, while Bridget was happy to help and contribute. It became clear that Happy was no longer doing much around the house, except for the occasional light task. The sweeping, mopping, and more strenuous chores were all left for Bridget to handle, including cooking. Happy, feeling a sense of relief and freedom, focused more on herself, continued with her beauty routines, fixing her nails, and spending time doing things that didn't require much effort. She no longer had to worry about the cooking. And with Bridget now doing the household chores, Happy began to feel less stressed. Bridget, on the other hand, took it all in stride. She was used to helping with the chores, having learned to take care of the house from a young age, and she didn't mind doing the work. Still, she couldn't help but notice how things had shifted. She was now the one handling the bulk of the housework, which included cleaning and organizing, while Happy seemed to be much more relaxed. Although she didn't complain, Bridget quietly wished that Happy would take on more responsibility, especially since she had already relieved her of the cooking duties. The imbalance in their roles was becoming more apparent, and Bridget couldn't help but feel that something was off. She didn't want to step on anyone's toes, but she hoped that Happy would eventually realize the importance of contributing to the household in a more balanced way. As time went on, it was clear that the dynamic between them was shifting. Happy was no longer the one handling the housework, and Bridget was taking on more than she had anticipated. The question now was how long this arrangement could last before either of them would have to face the consequences of their roles. When Bridget began cooking, the aroma of her meals would fill the entire house, making everyone's mouth water. The delicious smells would drift from the kitchen and spread throughout the rooms, creating an atmosphere of warmth and comfort. Anthony, who had always been a fan of good food, found himself eating more than usual since Bridget had come to live with him. He was absolutely thrilled with her cooking, and it became clear that he loved every meal she prepared. "This food is so delicious, Bridget," Anthony would say, his eyes lighting up as he savored each bite. "You've really outdone yourself." Bridget, always modest, would smile and respond, "Oh, it's nothing, Uncle Anthony. It's just the way my mother taught me to cook." When Anthony asked her how she learned to cook such delicious meals, Bridget didn't hesitate. "My mother, of course," she would say, her voice filled with gratitude. "She's always been a fantastic cook. She taught me everything I know." Anthony, impressed, would laugh and say, "Wow, your mom, my sister, is an amazing cook. But Bridget, I have to say, your food is even better than your mother's." "I'm not kidding. It's out of this world. I think I've finally found my favorite cook." This was high praise coming from Anthony, who had always appreciated his sister's cooking, but now he found himself impressed with Bridget's skill. "Even when we were little, your mom was always our best cook," he would continue. "But Bridget, your food is something else. I must confess, I'm even licking the last bit of soup off the plate." Happy, who had been watching quietly, couldn't help but be amazed. She had never seen Anthony so enthusiastic about food before. The way he praised Bridget's cooking made her realize just how much he appreciated good meals. Happy was surprised by how sweet Bridget's food tasted. Here she was, unable to cook a single meal, while Bridget had mastered it all. The gap between them had never been so apparent. For Happy, the realization was tough. She had never taken the time to learn how to cook, and seeing Bridget's skill in the kitchen made her feel the weight of her own lack of ability. While Bridget effortlessly prepared delicious meals, Happy felt a growing sense of inadequacy. She had been relying on her beauty and charm to get by, but Bridget's cooking skills, her warmth and dedication to her family, were now a stark contrast to Happy's own approach to life. As Bridget continued to cook, the meals grew more delicious, and Happy began to feel the pressure of having someone so skilled in the house. She couldn't help but feel both grateful for Bridget's help and embarrassed by her own inability to contribute in the same way. The tension was subtle but present, as Happy knew deep down that she had missed an important lesson, one that Bridget, through her food, had taught her without saying a word. Bridget had been doing all the house chores for weeks, taking on everything from cleaning, washing, and cooking, all because Happy refused to help. This heavy workload eventually took a toll on her health, and one evening, after feeling weak and dizzy, Mr. Anthony and his wife, Happy, rushed her to the hospital. After a series of tests, the doctor confirmed that Bridget wasn't getting enough rest. She was exhausted from overworking herself without any time to relax. The doctor treated her for exhaustion and advised Mr. Anthony that Bridget needed to take a few days off to recover and rest completely, without doing any house chores. Later that day, Bridget was discharged, but the warning from the doctor stuck with her. When Bridget got home, she couldn't wait to call her mother and tell her everything that had been going on. She was still upset and overwhelmed by the situation. "Mom, you won't believe what's been happening," Bridget said, her voice shaky. She explained how Happy had left all the housework for her to do, including cooking. "All Happy does is sit around looking pretty. She doesn't help at all. She only knows how to make her hair, do her nails, and spend time in front of the mirror," Bridget told her mother, her frustration building. She went on to explain how Happy would sometimes sit in one place all day, expecting Bridget to serve her food, juice, and anything else she needed, without lifting a finger. Her mother, on the other end of the line, was furious. "What?" she exclaimed. "I can't believe this. I'll come over tomorrow to take you home, and when I get there, I'll make sure I give her a serious warn. She can't keep treating you like that, Bridget. You don't deserve it." Her mother's voice was filled with anger and concern, and Bridget could feel the support coming from her. Bridget felt a small sense of relief hearing her mother's plan, but she still felt drained and defeated. She knew something had to change, and she was hoping that her mother's visit would finally make Happy understand the gravity of the situation. The thought of being taken away from the house gave her some comfort, but at the same time, she couldn't help but wonder what would happen when her mother confronted Happy. Would things get better, or would they get worse? I'm glad you're still following the story, because it's a very interesting one. And as you watch, don't forget to drop your opinion in the comment section. And I want to use this medium to appreciate all my followers from every part of the world: US, South Africa, Ghana, Europe, Philippines, India, and many more. Thank you for finding time to come to my channel to watch my videos. And if you are here for the very first time, kindly subscribe to my channel, like, share, and comment. And for those that are already following, help me share the video to more people as we uncover what will become a Happy in the story. Thank you once again. See you in the next part. Stay blessed.